Hudson County View, live and uncut. I'm your host, the guy that tells you 1 and 1 makes 3, your favorite cult of personality, John R. Heinis, and of course the latest and greatest in Hudson County news. So it was a relatively short Hoboken City Council meeting last night, about 2 hours and 15 minutes, which is quite succinct by the Mile Square City standards. But there were several agenda items that were notable. I mean, the salary ranges were amended. The first reading of a pay-to-play ordinance was amended as well. And we're also going to see the return of the Office of Constituent Affairs. And I could go on, but there were several notable things. So fortunately today we're joined in the studio by Second Ward Councilwoman Tiffany Fisher, who's going to give us her perspective on that, and of course a whole lot more. And as everybody knows, I'm sure, on Tuesday we have that runoff election in Jersey City's Ward C, which is Journal Square and a portion of the Heights. So we see the incumbent, Councilman Rich Baggiano, looking for a third term, running with the support of Mayor Stephen Fulop, being challenged by Kevin Bigg, who identifies as a progressive independent. We saw last week Councilman Solomon of Ward E did a brunch fundraiser for him, and we've also seen Frank Educational Gilmore, the Ward F councilman-elect, working with him as well. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic, so we're obviously going to speak about that as well. We're going to talk about what happened with the U.S. Department of Education. This is relevant for a significant part of Hudson County because Jersey City is now set to recoup as much as $126 million, while Hoboken is about $1.2 million and Weehawken is about $292,000. And we also heard from Congressman Series on that topic. So we're going to discuss what's going on with school funding and how this positive impact can be felt in those 3 portions of the 8th Legislative District. That and a whole lot more after we hear a word from our sponsors.
Good Friend Self-Storage in North Bergen, New Jersey is a fully climate-controlled facility equipped with state-of-the-art security, packing supplies, a Refer a Friend program, and multiple loading docks convenient for commercial use. Located just off of Route 3 at 4301 Tunnelly Avenue, Route 1 and 9. Call 201-867-2444 or visit us on the web today. Good Friend Self-Storage. Let us be your good friend.
Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunnelly Avenue, Jersey City. Hudson County's only monument maker, serving all faiths and cemeteries. Design, studio, and large inventory on site. Cemetery inscriptions and custom orders welcome. Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunnelly Avenue, just south of Secaucus Road. Craftsmanship that will last for all eternity. Burns Brothers, Jersey City, Albert H. Hopper, North Arlington. Visit us on the net.
Hudson County View, live and uncut. John R. Heinis. As I mentioned just a few moments ago, today I'm joined in the studio with Hoboken Second Ward Councilwoman Tiffany Fisher. Councilwoman, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
All right, very good. So, yeah, while it wasn't a particularly long council meeting last night, you guys had a pretty chock-full agenda, I would call it. So before we get into the most, let's just say, interesting items, let's talk a little bit about 2 things that happened basically in passing. The Office of Constituent Affairs is going to be coming back, and also we're going to have that new division of housing, which will be led by now outgoing Councilwoman at Large Vanessa Falco. So tell us your thoughts on those 2 items and your thought on their passage.
Sure. Both of which I voted against. So constituent services, this is something that everyone in Hoboken is looking for. City Hall's not open right now, hasn't been open. There doesn't seem to be any plan to open it. People are frustrated that there isn't any type of constituent services coming out of City Hall right now. And so this is something clearly that the community wants. We originally, voted to end the actual Office of Constituent Services because it was really just an additional personal aid to the mayor. In recent history, most mayors actually perform constituent services out of the mayor's office. We just didn't see the need to have a separate office. And quite frankly, it's just extra headcount around the mayor in the mayor's office. And at a time when we really should be continuing to cut costs, I just didn't think it was necessary. We felt very strongly that the constituent services can be performed out of the mayor's staff. So. And then the Division of Housing, listen, the Division of Housing is something that Hoboken desperately needs. We need someone to put their arms around everything relating to housing and security within City Hall. I just think that this division is being set up around the appointment of someone that is being appointed for political reasons, not necessarily the right strategic reasons for the city. If we really were taking housing seriously, we would cast a wide net to find the best talent, someone who has the most experience on everything relating to housing and securities, and bring that experience to Hoboken, but that's not what we're doing. We're bringing someone who advocates for it, but just really brings no real experience to the role. So to me, my vote against it was really just to say we need to do this differently, and we need to do it the right way for Hoboken residents.
Now, I know months ago you filed a complaint about this with the state. Have you heard anything further on that?
No, so originally we filed a complaint against the mayor specifically for making an offer to a sitting city council person and offering them future employment. And we made a dual complaint to the DCA for the ethics violation, the Office of Attorney General for criminal violations, and the state doesn't allow you to do both. So we need to rescind one of them and just file through through one of them. And so that's basically what we did more recently. We're also filing a complaint against the councilwoman as well, because it's very clear in the state ethics codes that this type of offering of employment to a sitting employee or a sitting elected official flies in the face of state ethics codes.
All right, well, we saw that legal opinion that said that it was perfectly fine, which is not shocking.
Yeah.
But maybe Trenton will surprise us here, so we'll wait with bated breath.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the salary ranges. Anytime this happens in any municipality, this is something that gets a pretty broad conversation.
Yeah.
I think that goes beyond just the politicos. So in short, the directors are going to go from $137,500 to $170,000. The BA is going to go from $170,000 to $199,000. And we're going to see increases for 5 select municipal employees from about $8,000 to $10,000. And the council is going to go from $24,000 and change to at least $35,000, $37,500 for the vice president, and $40,000 for the president. So you voted against that as well, and I know you've rallied against this since before the first reading. Your final thoughts now that it's in the books?
Yeah, I voted, there are probably pieces of it that are worth having a conversation over, whether or not we're appropriately paying, the directors in City Hall. We don't know. We've not done any study whatsoever. We have no idea where the areas of concern are. I think the select handful of people, including a very close relative of one of the council members, I think begs a lot of questions and shouldn't have been on the agenda. And I think, council salaries, I was definitely open to salary increases, no different than the 500 city employees that have been without a contract for the last 4 years. But a 45% increase makes absolutely no sense. So I think we're already talking, a couple of us who voted against are talking about maybe bringing back an ordinance in the new year to bring the salaries back down again. We weren't able to vote on them individually, so we couldn't, make maybe a change to one and make a vote for maybe just the director salaries and maybe change the city council salaries. We weren't given that opportunity. I actually offered that opportunity last night, and that got voted down. So I just think there's more dialogue we can have and maybe bring a revised ordinance up in January.
So it's in the books for now. You have the ability to decline the salary. Is that something you may do?
So I don't know the answer to that. I haven't really thought about it, and I don't even know if we can decline the salary, but so the answer is I don't know.
All right, fair
Yeah.
enough. Good time to take a word from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Consumer Carpets, 3408 Kennedy Boulevard in the Jersey City Heights, your one-stop store for residential and commercial floor treatments, carpeting, linoleum, tiles, laminates, hardwood floors, area rugs, remnants, all major brands, all in stock. Free estimates, same-day installation. Consumer Carpets, it's savings, selection, installation. Credit cards and debit cards accepted. Financing available. Consumer Carpets, price to fit your budget, installation to fit your schedule. On the net at consumercarpets.com. Consumer Carpets, Jersey City, 201-792-2712.
Ford made their first all-electric SUV a Mustang. Rapid acceleration, reactive handling, 300-mile range. You control how it feels and how it sounds. It knows you. It dials into your preferred settings. It has an array of driver assist technology. Cameras and sensors enhance your awareness and provide you with additional control. But it's more than cutting-edge technology. It's the spirit of it. It's a Mustang.
Hudson County View, live and uncut. John R. Heinis, and I'm still here with Hoboken Second Ward Councilwoman Tiffany Fisher. So, Councilwoman, let's now talk about pay to play. So, obviously, you first ran in 2015. You had the support of Mayor Dawn Zimmer. You ran on that ticket. Obviously, she was a reformer, to the delight of many in Hoboken, of course, to the dismay of some, but very different from what you typically see in Hudson County, right? And one of those examples, and there's several, but one is, of course, pay to play. Those reforms that they put forth about a decade ago, give or take, the most strict. Definitely in the county, perhaps in the state, right? Putting that limitations on local contributions at $500. Now, this ordinance that was before the council for the first time last night would take the contribution limit to unions from $500 up to $7,200, which is permissible, of course, under state law. So there's nothing wrong with that per se, but obviously this has people feeling a certain kind of way. So give us your lay of the land on this one.
Sure. I mean, people have been fighting against, outsized contributions, influeing contributions in Hoboken, for the last almost 20 years, right? The first legislation went into effect via referendum in 2004, and they continue to make improvements along the way. And Mayor Zimmer made the last one that really restricted PACs for the most part. And the original part, and probably the main part of that intent, was to avoid wheeling, where people couldn't maybe donate directly, but they could donate through a PAC and still have influence. This basically undoes that, right? The spirit of all of our campaign reform is to minimize the outsized contributions that potentially can influence or could be construed as like a quid pro quo trade for something else, right? And when you think about the kind of what this carve out for unions would be, like right now, right in front of us, 5 of our 6 unions are without contract. They're in the middle of negotiations. So just imagine what that negotiating table now looks like, right? The mayor potentially is the one that would be the beneficiary of any direct contributions, and the mayor is the one that is negotiating with taxpayer dollars contract terms for 5 of our labor contracts. I mean, that conflict is real, and that is absolutely crazy. The second kind of like broad category of unions is building trades, right? I'm a huge supporter of union labor. I'm a huge supporter. I've taken plenty of union contributions, anywhere from $100 up to $500 when I ran both times, and I'm very proud to have taken that. But when you allow the 20 or so unions to make that type of contribution in our local elections, first of all, that will rule out anyone being able to run against an incumbent that would be able to garner and get those types of contributions. And the dollar amounts are ginormous. And what would unions want in exchange? They would want big development in Hoboken. So
on that point, real quick. So one of the sponsors of this, 5th Ward Councilman Phil Cohen, he said that this ordinance has nothing to do with developers or super PACs. It's just for unions, and it's about unions exercising their constitutional rights. So what do you think on that?
What I would say to that is he sounds like a Republican, right? He sounds like a Republican that supports big money in elections. This is all about our local elections and keeping our local elections as democratic as possible, filled with as much debate as possible, and supported by people that are within our community. And notwithstanding, there's plenty of local, whether it's police officers, fires, or whatever, that live in our community. They can make their own individual contributions, right? But bringing this huge dollar amount into, like, I'll give you an example. In a ward election, my election probably was $35,000. Just imagine if I'm running against someone that is able to get $7,200 by making 5 phone calls, and suddenly they don't have to get any dollars from anyone locally. They have a fully funded campaign before they've even started, and that makes it very difficult for people that want to run for the first time, candidates that want to run for the first time. It all but cements incumbents in keeping their seats in perpetuity, and it's not appropriate for our local elections.
Speaking of local elections, theoretically you're up for re-election in 2023, but there's been talk of you running for county commissioner, state assembly, state senate, and rumors are rumors, right? But what are your plans today?
So my plans today are, I love public service. I love, I generally love policy. I love being able to serve and support my community. I love Hoboken, I love New Jersey, and I say it like that because I definitely have interest in doing as much as I can. I don't want anyone in the second ward to think that I'm stepping out of the second ward or stepping out of Hoboken, because I love both. But I will tell you, when we look around the landscape, like, I think our district, LD 33, deserves a better state senator, right? I think we have a state senator that does a lot of great things for Union City and a lot of great things for some people in the district, but I think he falls short on a number of issues that are important to the area. Whether it's transportation, whether it's education, he is supporting, a couple of different policies that are very anti-Hoboken. Like, we shouldn't have a state senator that is also a mayor who's in dual role, that is potentially conflicted and is not representing, all of the community, and always favors the one community that he serves as mayor. And I think, I think that we should be thinking outside that box, and we should be thinking about representation, whether it's me, whether it's someone else. We should be thinking about the best representation for our district. We are between the Holland Tunnel, the Lincoln Tunnel. We should be the economic driver for the entire state. We should be leading on education for the entire state. We're the most densely populated. We should have the best transportation, in the entire state. None of which is a priority for the current senator. So I think there's a dialogue to be had.
Councilwoman, we'll end there. Thank you very much for
Thanks.
joining me.
Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in, but we're not done yet. We'll be right back.
Newport, the luxury waterfront community on the Hudson River, offers a quality of life you deserve in one of our many high-rise towers. With amenities such as the on-site Newport Path, light rail, Newport Town Square, 3 playgrounds, dog run, upscale restaurants, retail giants like Kohl's, JCPenney, Macy's, and Target. Morton Williams and Acme Supermarket are just outside your front door. A health and fitness center, skating rink, and medical facilities are also on site. Enjoy the New York skyline from our waterfront and various parks. Manhattan is just one pass stop away, or a quick ride through the Holland Tunnel. Nursery and private elementary schools all on site. 12-screen movie theater at the Newport Center Mall. Looking to visit? Stay at the Westin or Marriott Hotel. For more information, visit us at newportnj.com. Make lasting memories to cherish forever. It's incredible. It's you, Newport. Live like you want.
Not everyone celebrates the birth of a baby. You have options. Don't panic. New Jersey has safe havens for unwanted infants. Leave the baby with staff at any hospital, ER, police or fire station, or rescue squad. Call the number on your screen for safe haven locations, or go to www.njsafehaven.org. No shame, no blame, no names. Safe Haven.
Panapinto Properties, Jersey City, shaping the workplace with state-of-the-art office spaces and addresses your company desires. Building residences that define your home environment, adjacent to all modes of transportation with on-site parking available. The right address, the right lease. Call 201-521-9000 or visit online at panapintodevelopment.com. Panapinto Properties, building Jersey City for everyone.
Hudson County View, live and uncut, John R. Heinis. So let's talk about this directive coming out of the U.S. Department of Education. Obviously, this is an entity that we don't talk about very often, obviously a federal entity. And the reason that we're talking about it this week is this is big news for the Jersey City Board of Education, and as I noted at the top of the program, also for Hoboken and Weehawken to a lesser extent. So what exactly am I talking about, in case you missed it? So the Jersey City Board of Education could recoup as much as $126,434,477 from state aid cuts following this directive that cites that this must be done in order to comply with the American Rescue Plan. So you guys may recall over the summer, I believe that was in July, we saw Jersey City Together, of course, an advocacy group out of Jersey City. They wrote to the Assembly and Budget Appropriation Committees of the Assembly and the State Senate, and they were saying, based on the parameters of the American Rescue Plan funds, of receiving those funds, you guys have to adhere to these certain guidelines, and to do that, you can't do state cuts. And it turned out that when they submitted these complaints to the U.S. Department of Education, along with the Education Law Center, who was also pivotal in this, they agreed 100%. So in short, this directive from the federal government should come as no surprise. It was clear that the aid cuts in the fiscal year 2022 budget put New Jersey out of compliance with the American Rescue Plan ESSER, which specifically prohibits states from reducing state aid to high-end poverty school districts. And that was Danielle Fari, who's the research director of the Education Law Center. So, you know, you recall that it was another tough year for Jersey City. The state announced over $71 million in cuts. So now, due to that reason, due to the fact that taxes were increased, we don't know if they're going to get the whole $126 million, if they're going to get the difference. But either way, it's going to be tens of millions of dollars. And obviously, with this school funding crisis in Jersey City that's been ongoing for decades, this is welcome news for anyone who lives in the district. So we heard from Bridget D'Souza and Dr. Jill Josephson, all parent leaders with Jersey City together. They said, the USED, of course, the U.S. Department of Education, has vindicated the advocacy of Jersey City Together and ELC to enforce maintenance of equity. The restoration of millions in state aid will be crucial for high poverty districts across the state, including New Jersey City, to invest over the next 2 years in their students and recover from the pandemic. Now, mind you, statewide, this is going to impact over 80 districts. So this is not a small decision by any stretch of the imagination. This has implications across the Garden State. You know, we see the impact here in Hudson County, but it goes well beyond that. So the other thing, too, is the directive said that if this is not restored, they could risk losing $2.8 billion in federal funding. But when I say they, I mean the state as a whole. So the state aid cuts were dictated by Senate Bill S2. That was a change to New Jersey's school funding formula enacted in 2018, sponsored by Senate President Steve Sweeney. That was phasing out adjustment aid, and that was basically state transition aid, which, of course, now no longer exists. And, you know, there's a pending lawsuit in the Jersey City public school districts against the state. And it's ongoing, and they've called this change unconstitutional, and they're seeking tens of millions of dollars. Actually, I think it's probably approaching $1 billion in the lawsuit now. It's been pending for a couple years. But with that in mind, we heard from the Board of Education President Musab Ali. He said the Jersey City Board of Education has known that S2 has been unconstitutional since it was first legislated. This is a huge sigh of relief for residents across Jersey City. We encourage the governor to act swiftly to restore funding to the Jersey City public schools. So that's the Jersey City impact in a nutshell. Let's talk a little wider. Let's talk what's going on also in Hoboken and Weehawken, and let's hear a little bit from our congressman. That's U.S. Representative Albio Series. Again, that's the 8th District. So today, last night actually, he came out and urged the governor, as Musab Ali did, to restore these funding cuts as soon as possible. He said, in accepting federal COVID-19 federal relief funding from the American Rescue Plan earlier this year, the state had to comply with a clause prohibiting states from cutting aid to high-need school districts between 2021 and 2022. I urge Governor Murphy to swiftly reinstate the funding cuts sustained in Jersey City, Hoboken, Weehawken, and other impacted school districts due to restrictions in state aid passed by the legislature in 2018. Jersey City faced the largest school funding cuts in the state despite serving one of the highest poverty student populations. So, let's talk again a little bit about what's happening in Hoboken and Weehawken. So now these are all estimates. We don't know exactly what the state or perhaps the federal government comes up with in terms of who is owed what, but these ELC estimates say that the Hoboken BOE is now owed $1,290,485, while Weehawken Public Schools need $292,848 to be whole again. So, Series concluded by saying the school district's needs have only grown during the pandemic, and it's crucial that Jersey City, Hoboken, and Weehawken receive adequate funding from the state. I reached out to the New Jersey Department of Education yesterday. I didn't get any comment back, and today I reached out to the governor's office, and they declined to comment. So I guess that's all we got for now, but this is something we're going to be following for the coming days, weeks, and months. Obviously, this is a pivotal issue, so we're going to be on top of it. With that, we're going to take another word from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Introducing the all-new Ford Maverick. A truck for people who do stuff. And people who make stuff. People like Gabrielle Union.
I make this look good, don't I?
Who haul whatever they want to wherever they want. Like wood to build things made of wood with. And friends to get weird with. It's for long trips that the standard hybrid engine with a targeted EPA estimated city fuel economy rating of 40 miles per gallon helps with. That an 8-inch touchscreen connects with. And any trip that this interior makes more comfortable. But we'll let Gabrielle tell you all about it.
Or I could just tell them it's a Ford truck that starts at less than $20,000 MSRP.
Yep, that works too. The all-new Ford Maverick, built to defy expectations.
Hudson County View live and uncut, John R. Heinis. So let's talk about the Ward C runoff. Again, as I'm sure everybody watching knows, that's the part of Jersey City that involves Journal Square and portion of the Heights. And we have incumbent Rich Baggiato, a two-term incumbent. He ran running as an independent in 2013 and 2017. Now this year he ran with the mayor. He got pulled into a runoff by challenger Kevin Bigg, and it's the third consecutive runoff for the councilman, who is also a retired Jersey City police detective. And Kevin Bigg is a first-time candidate, a former president of the Journal Square Community Association. And he's also, again, described himself as a progressive independent. So the ELEC numbers came out this week and add up some interesting findings, I believe. That's the New Jersey Election Law Enforcement Commission. And we saw that Kevin Bigg out fundraised Baggiato, but the incumbent still leads with cash on hand by a fairly sizable margin. Now, these were the figures from the last week of November. You know, a lot of things have changed since then. Obviously, everybody's fundraising daily. And of course, the councilman also had a fundraiser on Wednesday, and I heard he had a pretty good haul there. So, you know, take it with a grain of salt. But as of about a week and a half ago, this is what the numbers look like according to these formal filings. So Bigg raised $26,195. $7,450 were contributions of $300 or more. This is the 11-day pre-election report with ELECT that was filed on November 26th. And he also had $11,793.49 left over from the November 2nd general, where he was able to push the runoff, of course, and that allowed him to spend a little more than what he had raised, $27,190.88. So the bottom line is, again, as of that filing last week, he has $10,797.61 cash on hand. So not a bad showing from an upstart first-time candidate. Now, as for Baggiato, he didn't have a bad showing himself. He raised $14,300. Basically, he got three big PAC donations: $3,500 for the Jersey City Police Officers Association, $8,200 from local union number 164 IBEW, and then $2,600 from UA Plumbers Local 24 PAC. Again, that's $14,300. There was an additional $400 in small contributions, and his personal account had $22,771.05 left over from the prior race. He spent $12,553.43, so his cash on hand now at that time sat at $24,917.62. So I think two things that are worth noting is, we got quite a few letters to the editor this week about this election, but we got one from Kevin Bigg himself, and we also got one from Mayor Stephen Fulop, who, has weighed in on the race quite a bit, but he hasn't really taken a hard position on a lot of this stuff. So it was interesting to see Kevin come out, first of all, and he talked about affordable housing. And in a nutshell, he said this inclusionary zoning ordinance that just passed on first reading is a nice first step, but we need to do more. And if elected, this is something he'll support, but affordable housing has a long way to go. Again, that's in a nutshell. Now, we heard from the mayor just late this morning. He gave a different perspective. He said, on the surface, Rich and I aren't very similar. We're from different generations, have different political views on some issues, and we approach government from a different perspective. But there's one area that I consider most important. It is where Rich Baggiato and I are in lockstep: commitment to public service. So, some interesting reactions on social as always, but at the end of the day, the mayor concludes with this. He says he's demonstrated over a lifetime of public service that he can always be counted on to stand up for what he believes in and to advocate for his constituents, and that's exactly what we need in our elected officials. So, no secret where the mayor stands, despite no big contributions to Baggiato's campaign yet, though that, of course, is subject to change between now and Tuesday. We're going to call it a week here, folks. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon.